So, welcome to Quantum Motivations. I've got the lovely Amanda Stein here. Amanda, over to you. Would you like to give us a little introduction about where you're from and who you are?
Yeah, thanks, Drew. My name is Amanda Stein. I am the CEO of Quantum Catalyzer, and Quantum Catalyzer is a research and development organization and venture studio based in College Park, Maryland. So we're right outside of the Washington, D.C. area near the University of Maryland. Our founder, Ronald Walsworth, is a professor at the University of Maryland, which is where I met him. I spent about 9 years at the University of Maryland helping faculty members with strategic partnerships and securing funding. And I met Ron back in 2019, and he started Quantum Catalyzer towards the end of 2020. And through some of that journey, Ron said, "Hey, is it a good idea for you to leave your nice, secure job at the university and come take a leap into the startup world?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely." And for the last 4 years, I've been CEO. We have been focused primarily on quantum sensing research and development. We've got partners across industry, across other startups, and across other large organizations where we mostly work on nitrogen vacancy in diamonds and creating of new quantum sensors and imaging device based on that platform. So from the research and development that we have done, we've spun out now two companies, one called Euclid, which came out of stealth this past summer. It's raised a little bit of funding and going up for a Series A in later on this year. That company is focused on building the quantum diamond microscope, which was an imaging device that is looking into next generations of semiconductors and batteries. It also sells the quantum diamond microscope to researchers across the world focused in the paleomagnetism space because that tool is very good for detecting small magnetic levels in ancient rocks. The second company we spun out is called Arc Sensors, focused on extreme environment quantum sensors. That company is currently raising money. We've identified a CEO, and hopefully by mid this year, we'll be able to unveil some of our first products within that company.
Exciting stuff. Wonderful to hear. And busy with not just one, but two businesses.
Yeah. So Quantum Catalyzer, acting as a venture studio, really spends a lot of time in the very beginning doing a lot of the research and development that will inform the company. And then once we have a good prototype, we'll pass it along to the company where we will stay involved. We hold a board seat, we hold equity. But as a child grows up, similarly, we kind of take steps back and steps back and steps back. And eventually the child, so to say, leaves the nest. So, for instance, Euclid has its own CEO, it has its own staff. We still talk on a daily basis just about, but the company operates completely independent of Quantum Catalyzer, and we are in the same space, but they are fully running operationally, completely independently, completely separate company.
So it's kind of like a quantum hub, seed and accelerator in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas we only focus on our own internal research and development, we don't take outside folks who have ideas. We are only working on work primarily that's either coming from Ron Walsworth Academic Lab or stuff that we've worked on internally, either through ideas that we've had by ourselves or through ideas that have come through research that we've been doing with partners.
Fantastic, fantastic. And it kind of leads me into our first question. Um, what was what was the defining moment that sparked your journey into quantum technology? Did I sense there was a little bit of that in that intro? Would you like to expand?
Yeah,
Or did it come
yeah.
earlier?
No, when I met Ronald Walsworth, and he was the director of the Quantum Technology Center and hired by University of Maryland in 2019, he was at Harvard before that. I was asked to lead the Quantum Technology Center at the University of Maryland from the staff side once Ron joined. I had been helping other faculty members in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, where some quantum work is taking place, but I was focused kind of broadly within that department. So quantum was one of the things that I started thinking about and started working on, even going back to 2013, 14, 15 when I first joined the university. But really, it was 2019 when Ron joined and I started running the Quantum Technology Center at University of Maryland. and Ron having ideas for commercialization that really started my journey into a deeper world of quantum. And even when I was at the university, my full job wasn't only quantum technology. I was working on some other things as well. So really starting in 2022, when I joined from the university over into Quantum Catalyzer, has my journey been all quantum all the time.
Fantastic. I suppose looking back then, if you could relive that moment, would you do anything differently?
Absolutely not. And I say that because right around the same time that Ron was joining, I was looking to leave the university. And it really was the fact that Ron joined the university and they were creating this new center that was focused on applications of quantum technologies and something really dynamic with opportunities for commercialization that really got me to stay at the university. And so I say absolutely not, because it definitely has been such an interesting journey. And if I had started a new job in something completely different, I wouldn't be where I am today.
So it truly was, and keep it as it was in that sense. Fantastic. Wonderful to hear. Question two. Amanda, quantum's obviously described as the next major technical revolution. We've just had AI and it's changing the world. And now people are saying quantum is going to change the world next. In your view, what will be the most transformative impact on society as a whole in the next decade that can be realized?
Yeah. There's a lot of impacts that quantum can have. Speaking from the quantum sensing space, I really do think the marriage of precision medicine and precision measurements will really be transformative. There is so much happening right now in the quantum for life sciences or quantum biology space, and creating new tools that can do pathology better and more effective, or creating new tools that might even create the next type of MRI machine that can go down into a single cell image. I think will really be transformative. And I'd love to see it really improve human health over the next decade.
I think that's quite fascinating. You talked about doing a large scale MRI to an atomical scale just in one scan, I think is incredible. Tricorder stuff, in, as a Star Trek fan might say. And I can see the real practical need perhaps with cancers at this moment in time, and perhaps being able to do the biopsy without the invasion of a physical biopsy. That would be huge and speed up a lot of medical or time to heal processes in that side. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Next question. Amanda, think about scaling quantum from the lab to the real world. And it's often a huge challenge for everyone. What's the biggest barriers you and your team have faced, and how have you overcame it?
The way that quantum is scaled from the lab to the real world, let's take that real world aspect. That has actually been one of the biggest barriers. So, quantum is a business. We've created a business here at Quantum Catalyzer and have spun out two companies. The actual idea of bringing quantum to this real world requires lawyers and marketing and even IT equipment. And so, one of the biggest barriers we faced has been these really brilliant physicists, but they're not business people. And so, bringing in people such as myself and our interns and those who can analyze the market has really allowed us to bring quantum from the lab into the real world. Now, it takes time to build a business. It takes time to get all the legal documents in place. And so that time and those efforts and those funding that needs for the non-sexy part of quantum, the part that's not building the next generation devices, that can be quite a big barrier.
I can relate to that, not just from a HR point of view of how do you employ people and, putting your first contract together and offering your benefits in that environment, but compliance, legal and regulatory for contract negotiation and things like that. I can totally understand that. If you come out of a lab, you've got your white coat on, you're not necessarily a high-flung business lawyer to do it. So I can appreciate learning to run a business is the next challenge that someone has to overcome alongside that.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Amanda, next question. So, if you could give one piece of advice to the next generation of quantum innovators that are coming up behind you, what would it be?
So I'm going to break it up into two different groups because I do not have a physics degree. My PhD is in information studies, and I did study the business applications of quantum science. And so part of my advice would be to those who don't have technical backgrounds to embrace quantum. There are going to be opportunities coming up in the world for people who run businesses in quantum, which it can be highly specialized, for people who do marketing in quantum, for people who do policy work. So I think there is this huge opportunity, and the advice I'd like to give to people who are innovators, but not necessarily with the technical background, is that there is a place in quantum for you, and to definitely pursue these opportunities within quantum and actually try to think about it creatively. How do you market quantum? How are quantum businesses run that are different than regular deep tech businesses? Then for the scientists that are out there, I really will encourage to think outside the box, because one of the reasons that we have been successful at Quantum Catalyzer is that we've married different industries. For instance, we've married quantum with semiconductors, quantums with batteries, quantums with the health aspects. And I think that quantum will only be successful as innovators think about the applications instead of just the physics behind it.
I think that's a great answer. I mean, just taking that in and thinking about people who are coming in from outside of the physics and engineering background that's so typical at the moment. You need to have a PhD in physics or some form of related engineering to get a role. Do you think there are any skills out there that are really important beyond the physics or engineering that is great for quantum that people actually need, and going through?
Yeah, absolutely. Twofold. So, one, being able to communicate science. So, as I mentioned, I am not a physicist. I don't have a science background. I did work in science, though, prior to coming to Quantum Catalyzer. And so being able to understand science, and in this case, quantum, and being able to boil it down to a point where you, me, somebody who doesn't have a quantum background can understand is really a big skill. And so one of the things as we move forward in this field is being able to educate the public. Most of the public are not physicists. So having people in the world who are able to, one, be able to tell quantum stories, and two, be able to sell quantum and create partnerships is going to be, I think, a huge need in this field. The second thing, really, for those who are coming in with a quantum background is being able to boil it down for the people like me. And I think that has been one of the best things. And one of the things that was able to get me into quantum is working with faculty members and working with students at the University of Maryland who were able to explain to me quantum science at that really fundamental, rudimentary level. And so, to those scientists, being able to communicate in a way that lay people will understand, I think is a huge skill that is going to be needed.
I think that's a huge valid point. I mean, if you've had a faculty background, we don't actually educate people in communication. We teach them to read and write, but not necessarily how to communicate and listen, and translate and adjust to different audiences on there. And I think whether you've got the physics background or not, any background that you can really take a voice of quantum and share that out and put it to an audience so people will either buy, use, or try, it is a great advocate. Thank you.
Yeah.
Final question. Okay. Looking ahead, what collaboration or breakthrough excites you the most personally about the future of quantum?
I think there's so much opportunity in quantum as you look at it across a sector, from quantum computing, quantum sensing, quantum networking. It's hard to pin down just one. I'm going to be, again, a little bit biased and bring quantum sensing back into it. I'm excited at the fact that the field is growing and that we can touch on so many applications. So, going back to the health applications, I'm so excited that there could be a new way to do pathology or a way that could scan the body with just a quantum sensor, one type thing to be able to detect skin cancers. I think that that's so sci-fi, and I look forward to a time where that actually is a reality. On the quantum computing front, I think the opportunities that we have in drug discovery and even materials discovery are going to be super exciting and see a lot of opportunity there. And then finally, going back to what I said about AI, and clearly AI is here, but that marriage between AI and quantum technologies, I think can be extremely revolutionary. The amount of data coming, as I said, not only from quantum sensors, but also coming out of what we can find for quantum computing, and then being able to compute it into various AI language models, I think will really be transformative. And I'm really looking forward to a future where there's that really strong marriage between quantum technologies and AI.
I think that just puts Skynet there, doesn't it, really, when we get truly agentic AI with the bandwidth and processing capability of quantum, which will just take it beyond its limits, but also on affordability to work at that level. It costs millions of pounds to set up these supercomputers at the moment, and processing power to be able to do it in quantum and bring the power of that to someone locally is phenomenal.
Yes,
Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
Excellent. Amanda, thank you for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it, and your input on those answers. We really value it for the podcast. So, from me and the rest of the team at Quantum People, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.